Everybody worked for you. Who went to school here.
If they want to, yeah. No, I don't want them to feel.
Yeah. So we'll walk a while. Sit back. All right, get back.
I think we got room.
That's all set. Wherever, whatever's left over.
Well, let's start. Or wants to see the game. We're good.
It's 6 on that man.
6 all down. Let's do the flag real quick.
Okay.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Get around there.
These new phones don't have like an easy button, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
That's like a rotary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's have a chair.
All right, welcome everybody. Regular committee meeting. Just pretty much no action item. Mainly work session with the council, but we did invite a couple groups here to discuss just budget. How we want to move forward, how we want to work together to try to supplement those budgets in a specific way, because we know obviously people are watching what we spend and where we spend very closely. So again, trying to be fiscally responsible for our community, for all of our taxpayers across the board. So we're obviously meeting with a lot of these organizations, and we're already met with the Midland, for example. Okay. So we do have Boy Scouts here tonight. We have Historical Society. We've got Boy Scouts up first on the agenda. So we'll just hear representative Boy Scouts. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome. Absolutely.
Would you be opposed to hopping up here at the table with us?
No, I don't.
That'd be awesome.
Great, good. Thanks.
What was your name again? I'm so sorry.
Ken Lake.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you probably know most of us.
I don't know everybody, but. Right.
Wendy, sir.
Yeah, go
Hi.
ahead. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
I
you.
know you, not sure.
Sherry Luce.
Sherry, pleased to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So I'm the troop committee chairman, been involved with the troop probably since the mid-80s. We moved here in our family, and about that same time, I had a young son that joined the troop, and I was a scout when I was a kid, that sort of thing. So my background's pretty deep in scouting. We appreciated the partnership we've had with the village and the cabin over all these years. I think you guys are somewhat familiar with the agreement that was signed in 1934, whatever it was. And so we've had a pretty robust program up until the last few decades, and you know, youth and families have changed somewhat, and we've seen membership fall off. But currently, we register about 8 scouts, which is probably the lowest number we've ever had. And it's ranged as high as 20-22 scouts. The feeder unit is the Cub Scout unit, and they have had pretty good recruitment this fall, and we generally get 2 to 4 kids that come out of the Cub Scout pack into the troop each year, and that's kind of our feeder program into the program.
The Costco's don't come out to the Boy Scout and have it. Do they go meet somewhere else?
They do occasionally, but they meet at the Legion for their pack meetings, which is it's every week they meet, and then once a month they have a bigger group comes in. But we do have them occasionally, either for events or come to the meetings just to watch what we're doing, that sort of thing. Or we go to the Legion to help them with the program that needs some help with the program, that sort of thing. So I guess if I can just keep rambling, is that what you want me to do? So over the course of my experience with the Scout Cabin in the village and so on, you know, we had a good relationship. Like I said, we worked with Jim when he was the administrator. Whenever we had needs or some certain things to maintain, you know, I talked to him about it ahead of time. In the same way with Danielle, we've talked about certain needs of the troop for the building and that sort of thing. There's been some projects that we've cost shared on. The building was recently painted, and we kicked in $1,500 or so on that building and so on. The village put new windows in the building. Within the last 10 years, there was a little bit of an installation flaw. The installer put the new windows on top of 100-year-old sills, so there's some maintenance issues with it on the bottom of the windows of the building. At our own expense, we upgraded the electrical in the building because it was just a single box with the screw-in fuses. So we had those, wired around and put a breaker box in, and so we brought the electrical up to code, at least what you can see on the outside. I don't know exactly what's in the walls, but there's only 2 circuits in the whole building, so it's not that elaborate. We had Shoemaker helped us install a new HVAC system within the last 5 years. So we put a new furnace in the upstairs of the building. So that feeds up upstairs and down, but the upstairs is closed off most of the time. Kevin, of course, had a son who was in the scout troop, and so his staff donated the labor for the project, and we paid the rest of the bill, whatever it was, to upgrade the HVAC. A new roof was put on the building. I think that was 100% village expense. Again, the last 10 years, maybe it might be 15 years ago. It's been a while. And
I apologize. Can you share with me again the windows was village.
Yeah. We may have cost shared. A lot of times what I'll do is, if we have the funds, I'll tell the administrator that, we can contribute something, and I know we did it on the paint. I think we might have done it on the windows. I don't remember whether we did or not, but the flag project that you see in the village is something we started and ran for about 6 years, and we accumulated a decent amount of income for that. We're still kind of working on it. Then our numbers got a little small, so we decided to, enlist the Girl Scouts to do that project. So now they're having the benefit of that project, and that's carrying on. So the proceeds from the flag project is still are working on, although we still have the trash pickup project that we do for the Racing Festival in the village. Pays us to pick up trash, and that's our main fundraiser. So we're fairly self-sufficient financially, and that sort of thing. So currently in the building, the only concern that I have for the building at this point, let me back up. Before I was involved, probably 40 years ago, there was a new foundation put under. That was when Lou Bowman was scoutmaster here in town. Something you might remember the name. He was a builder. They actually slid the building off the old foundation, built a new one, slid the building back on. So there's a fairly new foundation under the building. So the structure is pretty decent. Siding's old, but the guy that did the painting did a really good job. We're really satisfied with how that turned out. And of course, it's got a new roof on it. So internally, it has a restroom. There's no hot water. It's just a single toilet and a sink. So it had to be brought up to 88 code or something like that. It's got a little problem. And then the upstairs, that used to be a church years ago. And the upstairs ceiling is still the old plaster and lath. Some of that's falling out. And so that needs some attention, because when the plaster falls out, you can see right to the roof. There's no insulation in the top. And I don't think there's insulation in the sidewalls, actually, because the furnace will just run a lot when we're there. We keep the furnace 55, 60 degrees when we're not there in the winter time, and pretty much close most of it off, so not keeping a lot of that building. So I think that's about it.
Do you meet weekly as well?
Yeah, we meet every Monday night at 6:30. So you might, if you can stop out sometime during that meeting night, take a look inside or something like that, or if you guys do want to tour the building sometime, then feel free to get a hold of me, and we can certainly get that happen.
Are these Danielle /10 are the upgrades, windows, roof, the paint, etc. Are those documented anywhere, the years that these things are taking place? Do we know that?
Yeah, we should have previous budgets, definitely.
But is there like for lack of better words, here's the sheet, here's the doc that states.
It's just gonna be our previous documents that we would have in our budgets that we have.
I'm wondering if there would be a way to go ahead and put it into one doc, simply for, it would take some work, I understand. But just simply say, okay, here's the Boy Scout cabin, and this is the work, here's the year, versus having to go back on a continual basis to see what's been done, that kind of a thing, just so that it's all in one spot. I think that might be helpful. That's just a thought on where I'm coming from.
You used to have to plan budgets for,
Well,
we needed to.
Look and say, okay, well, the work was done, and I know we can do the research for it, but if it's all, we do the research now, it's in that one spot. That would be, I think, a bit helpful for everybody to say, okay, yeah, roof for sure, bam, 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 bam. And then I would also like it, if possible, to go ahead and the things that were, cost shared on, just, I say that just for transparency issues. So that people can say that, okay, yes, this has been a cost share, for lack of better words, Boy Scouts are not benefiting totally from 100% of the village. They are putting forth efforts as well.
Our treasurer could offer, when those payments were made.
I think that might be some.
I know that, I had already written on the thing,
Okay.
prior to that, I can look at.
Yeah, so
Because
the
we
only
did
thing
that one
else that I
together.
thought we might have cost shared on the window, but I don't remember for sure.
In the things that you guys have bought or else can keep for yourself. Again, just all head it on one document, so it's very clear. Again, pass into that now.
Yeah, our attitude toward building is something that we know it's an expensive building. We recognize that it's a taxpayer expense that we need to justify its use, those sort of things. Disappointed that our membership isn't where we'd like it to be in order, for us to carry on our mission in the community. But then on the other hand, we try to do things like these cost shares or add or do electrical things that we can afford to do right away. And then simply come to Danielle when, it's a bigger project that we don't think we're getting in, or shouldn't. I mean, it's a major maintenance thing. Village really doesn't want us on the roof, doing roof and some things like that. So then we want to make sure we get coverage in that regard.
Well, I'm trying to be fair across the board and bring all of these sort of organizations, entities, and these sort of outside things that we support or work with or team up with, like you mentioned. And Boy Scouts looking at our budget, this new fiscal year, we're right around $16,275 for the villages. Offered to go out of our general fund. It's like 0.5% of our general, like 0%. So again, it's not a huge expense, but again, trying to be fair across the board and say, how are we getting them, how we're really looking at the budget tightly. And it's not picking on these individual groups. It's again saying what's for the greater good of the community. And my concern is, are we supplementing different organizations? And then we're gonna have, do we contribute to Girl Scouts? No, you know what I mean? So is there some sort of fairness, equality, kind of whatever with that sort of thing? On top of that, again, like I said, at the beginning of the meeting, people are very cognizant, very closely watching where we're spending. And again, we have to try to spend across the board for the greater good of the community itself. And I get 100% what the Boy Scouts do, what the Cub Scouts do, how they contribute, how they help, youth grow into, prosperous adults. Again, it's just sit down and talk with all your groups about where we're spending, how we're spending. So, we've got $7,500 average maintenance, budgeted maintenance on top of the capital improvement, which would be the installation of the $5,000 that's requested. Not much for wages and benefits, about $2,000 in utilities. So again, this stuff does add up. I guess my point in bringing all these groups together is how do we really, number one, justify it to our residents who again are very cognizant where we're at in our budget. And number two, is there a way to work a little bit better and say, can we help off some costs and work together and maybe still make these organizations programs thrive? But is there a way to say this is a little bit more fair to the rest of the taxpayers across the board?
So a question, a couple things, I guess. The $16,000 expense that you mentioned, it's not something that we see.
It fluctuates.
Yeah. So over the last 10 or 20 years, is there an average price that, or an average cost, or
Usually lower.
yeah,
Because we have done, I think we 90% for sure we didn't like those.
right.
So yes.
So then the other thing is, the lease runs out in 10, 12 years. And I hope you guys can start looking forward to what would happen at the end of that lease. And how either the building is repurposed for youth organizations or something like that. And, we've always been open to, allowing the building to be used by others. And we've told the Girl Scouts, we've told the Cub Scouts, things like that. So I think from a village standpoint, once we get to 2036, whatever that date was, And it'd be nice to think about what we would do with that property and, you know, beyond that. We had a project drawn up at some point to make an addition on the building that would, you know, house equipment. And then maybe a little kitchen sort of thing to upgrade the bathroom situation and add kitchens or things like that. So I don't know if that's a redundant service that we have in the village or something could be added to enhance the property or whatever. But nevertheless, you know, the building's in pretty good shape, but I do think, you know, it's underused, underutilized. So,
That's the way. That's really good.
and we recognize that. So we would, you know, be open to trying to transition into some sort of a better use in the next 10 years. And I would think that would help alleviate any sort of pushback you could get from taxpayers in regards to its underutilization.
And that was the next step that I wanted to think of. Yes, we have this lease, which is ancient almost, you know, what I mean, and that's terminating at 32. So again, what are the options? Would the Boy Scouts or would some other sort of organizational group be willing to take that off of the village's hands? Again, I don't think, unfortunately, the one lady that was left from the congregation or whatever the church was, or her family or her residents. And again, from the past, some of our legal team, you know, our attorneys have been a little bit concerned about, you know, how do we address these deeds and how do we, you know, or how do we look at other options to say we can wipe our hands away from, or we can break this deed or whatever. So I guess that's kind of my input or my recommendation would be, once this lease sort of settles, or even if we're beforehand, is there a way to say, okay, we can kind of wipe our hands up from it? We, as a village, we could still work with you, obviously. You know, it's great that you help clean up at the festival, because, you know, some of us have done that. That's a miserable thing. And it's great that we can contribute back to the organization. But again, how do we protect the overall fiscal, you know, safety, security of the village, but as well as we try to help out these organizations.
Yeah, I have a question. Does the village hold the Boy Scout charter, or do you
Does.
Go ahead.
Rotary Club does,
Rotary
and it has for 75 years. So
since inception?
no, I don't know who it may have been 100 years ago, but it certainly has been the last 90. I think we have in documentation of some sort. So the way Boy Scouts work is the scout troop doesn't own its own charter. Somebody else has to do that. So the Rotary Club holds the charter with the national organization. And so what we have is our troop committee. As me as the chairman, we have a representative from the Rotary Club that is organizational representative, an official term. I don't know if that's exactly what it is, but they are involved to the extent that we generally go to them once a year, update them on program, that sort of thing. And we used to get financial support from them, but you know, in the last 10 years or so, we don't need it. So we haven't asked for financial support from them, but Rotary Club is their charter partner for sure.
And Cub Scouts, do they fall under your charter?
No, they have a separate charter similar to Boy Scouts, but that's held by the region.
Okay, and that's why they meet.
Yeah.
And the Girl Scouts similar?
I have no idea. I really don't know how they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when you've asked, them previously about using the building, they said no because.
No, well, a lot of it is because the Girl Scout troops are much larger than the Boy Scout group.
Okay.
So they may have 100 or so, so it wouldn't accommodate that. And again, I'm probably not speaking in the right terms, but they have different age groups.
Okay.
And each age group is a different troop. So they have, you know, 5 here and 10 here and 6 here, and from you know, 3rd or 4th grade all the way up to the senior in high school. So it's different groups of girls and different groups of leaders. And there might be 5 or 6 of those groups in the village.
I see.
I don't know how their charter is held. I don't think they have a chartered organization like the Boy Scouts do. They have a regional council and a paid professional that would oversee the administration of whether doing things right and being trained and that sort of thing. So it's a whole different style. However, the way I understand it, they usually have problems accommodating that sort of numbers. And maybe, and I don't know if they have to meet at the same time, but they would it certainly seem to me like. If each group met a different night, then maybe 5 nights a week, the building could be utilized with a different group like that. So it could be something that we can talk to the girl groups about. And that brings up another point. Some of you might have remembered 10, 15 years ago, we tried to, Kevin Shoemaker tried to get a building up down on Monroe Street to, and so on. So there was some money raised at that time for that building, which there's some funds at the Community Foundation that sets under the guise of Blissfield Boy Scout cabin fund. There's probably not more than $5,000 or $10,000 there, but there is some funds designated toward, doing some sort of project for a Boy Scout cabin, and some local people are on that. What's the structure called under a foundation? There's board of directors or something, and so maybe Brian Porter and a few others in town would be on that committee, and Kevin would know who that is, but that's separate from these and that sort of thing. But there was that fundraising effort, and some funds remain in the foundation.
Are you still kind of operating under the old realm? I guess a lot of the entity became like the Scouts of America or something, so they literally kind of encompass all the groups.
Yes.
Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, et cetera, right? But you guys are kind of operating on your own, like the old, before,
The old-
what is it, Scouts of
old-
America, right now, it's Boys Girls Together, whatever.
No, we operate under the new rules. That's what I call it. In other words, it's no longer Boy Scouts of America, it is Scouting USA. Okay, so it's a different name. And it does include female members. However, the scouting organizations always have had some fairly strict rules when it comes to co-ed operations. And what we have to do today to admit girls into the scout troop is actually organize a new troop and get a charter partner. And we've already approached Rotary about this years ago, and they would do it. But we'd have a separate troop of girls, a separate set of leaders. And obviously for girl groups, you have to have women leaders. You can have male leaders and another female, and then the other female can't be the spouse. And then if you do that, then you have to have another female and another, so you effectively have to have the Boy Scout troop over here, it's operating just fine. And a Girl Scout troop over here with at least 4 leaders, probably 2 male and 2 female. So it's just so cumbersome that we never push to try to, and the Girl Scout units here are strong, so there's no use of trying to. Now, they are starting to change the rules a little bit. I didn't, fully expected this to happen. So now, okay, we're gonna let you experiment with boys and girls together in a troop, and they've done this in Europe for decades, so it's nothing new in the world. It's new for the United States. So we'll put it together. You still have to have this 2 deep leadership, and you have to have males, females, and depth, and stuff like that. So when it comes to even commingling the units, because what we've seen is, girl members do just as well in the program as the boy members do, and but we still have to have the 2 deep leadership and all the male, female separations, this sort of thing. And then especially, when you're going camping, separate this, and a lot of people overseeing all that. So that administrative piece of it just is a little cumbersome for us with one.
How about when you get,
Yeah.
when you have 8 members versus.
Yeah, but in order for us to go out and really promote a program, because there are girls in the community that would do this program, no question about it. But the administration of it and getting it done right is a little cumbersome, and we have, chosen not to, get into it. But we fully embrace the new procedures and those sort of things, new membership ideas and so on and so forth. BSA, well, it's not BSA, but it's the new organization has all the force to go on.
No, I was glad though that like you just stated the part about, this is definitely not taking on the Boy Scouts or the Historical Society or anyone, but when we're having these meetings, it's just because it's not happening.
Yep.
It's just not happening. I mean, I'm out.
Sure.
And so that's where this is kind of coming together so that we can have that dialogue And, no way, and I'm so glad that you're not. So glad that you are receptive to this, and you're not like, oh my gosh, they're trying to get us, or they're trying to, no longer Boy Scouts, and they're not funding us anymore. That's not what we're saying. It's just really literally coming together and having this discussion, so we know where we all stand, and where to go next.
No,
How to
that's,
go
that's.
forward. So thank you for sure. Thank you for coming. I appreciate that. I have nothing
No,
further. to
I personally though would like to, again, we've got a few years to really chew on this and look at the lease and let's say, maybe there are other options, whatnot. So again, what makes most likely have fiscal responsibility. Again, it's certainly, we're not trying to pick, we're not trying to point people out, again. I understand that, being fair across the board here, so, okay.
You've read a plethora of information. Thank you.
One last question. So,
Yes.
are there any plans, for insulating the building? at all? Or any, nothing with you?
Well,
Okay.
that would be a conversation that I should be having with Danielle about first.
We did budget it this year.
Okay.
I hadn't reached out because of this conversation, but it was approved in this year's budget. And we do have the bathroom upgrades in our capital improvement plan, but it was not requested this fiscal year. I think it's next year. And that's of course pending approval, but it's on our radar, so we don't lose sight of that.
And that may be one of the things too, is you guys don't always know what's on the radar.
I guess not.
You don't,
Yeah.
and you don't. And so maybe that's something too, you guys, that we need to give thought to, is that it needs to be a year kind of a thing, just to have an update of, it doesn't have to be like, say, hey, this is what we're thinking, is this what you're thinking, that whole thing.
Well, you'd think that would have been a request, right, for Boy Scouts?
It was a request from them. Yeah, so I reached out to Ken, and during our capital improvement, like early in the year, when we start doing capital projects and. Yeah, so you're the one that sent me the insulation and bathroom upgrades. So that request came from you and was built into our budget.
No worries.
But to be fair to Ken, this was, our budget process is months and months long, so I think you and I had talked back in, I wanna say like February or March, and then it takes me from March to October to get it all built out and approved with council, so. Or fairly.
Just so we're not duplicating. And we don't know what the other one is doing, and so we start working on insulation, you start working on insulation, all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute. They're putting in insulation, I thought we did. That's, so.
Well,
thank
when
you.
it comes to this sort of thing, I mean, I understand that, those things, that sort of building, public building need to be under contracts and done right in code, and so we try not to do anything more than just standard kind of maintenance for the building, so.
Thanks.
I'd certainly like to see it more utilized again. I made it through Tiger Cups, I never became anything further than that, but again, how do we get more youth involved, things like that, so or, and again, I get, you don't want other entities in there messing with your stuff if you got to set up the way, we totally get that, so. But understand, it would probably be more beneficial for other groups.
I should add, the Girl Scouts flag project, the old building that's beside the shed that stores the flags, they still use that, so they're using that thing for storage and so on. So we often that is part of the deal. You can utilize that, so they are part of the project. Okay.
We'll certainly keep our audio, keep the touch, we appreciate it.
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
Store. People. Welcome. All right. We got a few more of them Boy Scouts, but if you want to join us, you're more than welcome. If not,
Please do. I mean, seriously, if not that. Discussion.
Nice. Sorry, I was late. We had a private meeting.
it's been terrible. Isn't it?
It's been awful. It was under this. What Here's it. Thank you.
All right, Connie, so, yeah, Connie, you got Jackie, I'm sorry.
Happy Bella.
Okay, welcome. I don't know if you know all of us or not, but.
Pretty much. So that I never met you.
I am Sherry Lewis, I'm new to the council.
Sherry Lewis, nice to meet you. And have a nice day. Thank you for having us. Come on up. ISE.
Okay. So continue much like we discussed with the Boy Scouts, Historical Depot, budgeted right around 31,375 this year. 22,000 would be for a new one, which is badly needed. Right around 600 for insurance, 1,000 for maintenance, 4,700 for utilities. And then 3,000 some wages, benefits, etc.
And is that just for paying bills and whatever, just any general time you spend on
DPW doing
paying
anything
those
like that.
bills?
So,
That's all, we don't charge for the administrative time to like pay the bills. That's just DPW wages. So anytime if they go to, and this does fluctuate a little bit year to year. But anytime they go over there to do any maintenance on the building or anything specific to that property, then we code their wages and benefits to that.
Okay, and an average is about 25, right?
Yes. Yeah, sorry, my email back to you came a little bit late this afternoon. It was a Monday, so I
No
apologize.
worries, well, mine, it doesn't matter, I just didn't know, and then, well, and we appreciate, oh my goodness, thank you for helping us be there, because we need some. Blissfield's history, and, I would like to, as Ken said, if anybody would like to use our beautiful meeting room in the basement or the facilities, you know, that's always welcome. I know that the Sons of the American Revolution, they meet there every month. So they're down in the basement, and of course, we're open for Yuletide and any activities downtown most of the time. If they need us, we're there, and yeah, the restrooms open. We're open every Saturday from 11 to 3. We're happy to give a specialized tour of people call, and we meet them over there. And then we're also there most Tuesdays from 1:30 to 4. And slowly trying to get our collections organized and channeled and in good shape. You know, and we keep getting new stuff all the time. We just had a nice when the author passed away, and John Tuckerman was the executive, whatever he was, and he let us come in and anything was field history. Because everything else was the house, and the rest of the contents were going to Sierra Club and the Michigan Humane Society. So any was field history, you know, come in. So we had some nice treasures that we found for that, and someone else, somebody has, her dad was, I think that's a married woman, her dad was a photographer, and he was good. She's bringing us his pictures and his negatives to store. And I think we were pretty involved in the bicentennial celebration, and we had a lot of nice history to share during that. The cemetery, where if you didn't get to go, it was a treat. And it wasn't that good, and we would like to have that again, you know, we'll organize it, have it again. And we're, like I said, we're always here for you, we'll have another home too. But this year, for myself personally, has been pretty crazy. And the home tour wasn't going to happen, but we are going to have for Yuletide the 60 stops, just a walking driving tour. You buy an information packet and it has all these 60 stops. They will be flags and signs out for Yuletide. Do that same one. Yeah. And
I had a request today for a book club. That's started to be the paper, and I don't know. They just said, like, this deadline. Nice.
that would be great. And like I said, we glad to share it, you know, and that's like I said, Gary Holmes, he has his Sons of American Revolution. And, we're hoping to maybe get finish painting it, but that's been on hold for a little bit. And but I appreciate the thoughts of the new group, because the building, no matter who's in it, that's you needed. And let's see here, you always find then the next slide. So, what else? We have just Blissfield memorabilia for sale there, and I was just thinking today, I might maybe want to buy more bicentennial mugs. Because we ran out of those really quickly, and I wondered if people would be interested, even after the fact, as a Blissfield souvenir. It's just a thought. Not many. No. About five. So we got some. I don't know what else. Anything else? Do you guys have questions?
Okay, so.
Oh,
Go,
no.
go.
And I know our lease, I don't know how I ever signed that in 2012 because.
Well, I signed it too, so.
How did we do that? Because we weren't even building hardly.
That was what we, and yeah, it's. Looking back at it, that's when we had our main street, yes, yeah, our main street PDA record in there, so it was a little bit different times. And that's, I think, why it boils down to, we were paying the utilities, we were paying the internet, that sort of thing, because our director was in that facility at the time, and 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, so it made a little bit more sense. And now that we remodeled this place and moved out here, it's a little bit different, we're not in it anymore, so. Totally get the benefits of the historic society. Kind of issue buff as well, architecture buff, so I get it, I wish we had a little bit more. My mom and talked to my copies, last Saturday. And great stuff, and not a lot of publicity. So, again, is there, a way to say, start unpacking this stuff and setting it up for people to come in, maybe drop a donation, maybe contribute, maybe we're selling more, historical goods, that sort of thing. And then I guess backing up with, you mentioned another club, and obviously it's everything's better these days with that club to come and use it and not pay anything, or they just have a key. If this is, these are things we need to discuss it now.
We run on that.
But you lease it.
Huh?
You're the leaser
Okay.
or leasing.
And I'm not sure.
At this point, Gary doesn't, they don't pay it.
I'm not sure, I thought I read the contract somewhere, it's pretty much just between us and the historical society, so I'm not sure what would need to be, get approved. We don't want keys flying around like we did before, yet, so we kind of need to have sort of limited control on who's utilizing this building, again, it is a taxpayer now building, so it's just a good check.
Someone would be there to open the building and go on.
And
Check the beach.
obviously, we've had the. Since it did, again, historical site, it's hard to get volunteers, we totally get that, and it sort of phased out a little bit. We're kind of revert to the village, we made the village's responsibility, so, we had the basement issues, the foundation issues, we're gonna need a roof, got windows that need to be replaced, again, the constant maintenance, I think, people don't understand, we continue to talk about over and over, we love these donations, we love these additions to the community, but people always just seem to say, okay, how much does it cost to build this? And then we really think about the meeting. Maintenance. So, again, we're talking about 1% of our general fund.
The agreement does say right to sublet too. So
They are allowed to do that. Okay.
So that.
So you are, well, you would be allowed to, if you wanted to charge, that's up to you guys, because you're the lease. Holder, but in the agreement, it says you have the right to sublet or to charge.
You can just pay for our internet and all of this. Yeah, and we have like 63 members on the list, but. Like everything else, you have 8 active members that do most of the work, right?
If anybody has time next week, I can talk directly.
But
Well,
and obviously it's great that the bathrooms are open, and for these kind of things like that. Unfortunately, 223 is after people, for some reason, they'll walk across Walmart to get to the bathroom, but they don't want to walk 500 feet to the depot. Again, we're talking about, and this isn't consistent, much like the Boy Scouts. 32,000 this year, obviously, we're talking about a look. But again, you know, as these maintenance issues come out, we talk about downtown crossroads, we could probably build a set of downtown. 68,000. You know, right somewhere down here rather than people work off where you have to have it open. You know, it's kind of hit and miss on the open and close times.
No, yes, it's done, they're open, we have people whenever we come in, we have
23.
coming.
They say they're open and so they're going there and they're coming.
And I do have to get a sign posted, sorry, I haven't had a minute, but about parking over, does that parking lot have a name?
Yes, it's the Rottmeier. Yeah, I've been calling it the wrong name for 4 years, I learned. What across the tracks, yeah, I call it the North Lane parking lot, but it's the bottom. Parking lot.
You know, I guess you're getting signs for.
You didn't know that? I didn't know that I had.
And you might have wanted to do a bigger sign about where parking lot, so people know, because honestly, it looks like it's parking for the apartments and the businesses back doors. And I don't know that people really understand that it's a public park. What?
What's the lady back there?
My biggest comment for the historical society would be the same comment that I made for the Boy Scouts, just they having something on one central document, Danielle, of what has been done, just to have that running cap on that one piece of paper so that we can see what has been done in one time. Because they have to get around money, and it's going to be significant amount of money. I'm not saying that they are, I'm saying that that's what it is, and I can see everything at one fell swoop, that's a lot easier. So that would be my only comment on that.
Just a history of the upkeep of the building,
Yes.
basically, who pays for what,
Yes.
or manages and organizes what.
And as well as the leases, again, much like that was kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it here right there. We want to really keep an eye on that, because it all renewed and none of us even considered it as bad as that, just auto renew for another 10 years. So
It
I think
does.
it did.
It didn't, yeah, it renewed in 22 and I had no clue this
Right.
agreement even existed.
Oh, I thought it was like,
So it just auto.
And obviously that would have been the time to discuss. Hey, we're not in there day to day anymore, things are gonna change regardless of the lights of the heat and you know, that kind of thing. Obviously, maintenance is gonna be the big number on that. And we certainly appreciate what you know. With lots of ideas and that thing. So
trying to be that girl painted up and looking good and lights, we did raise the money for lights last year and Mike was so kind to help us to put them up, or well, it was.
But that,
I got ready to go.
that's the kind of thing that, so we see that but we can say, okay, this is how much, historical society has put in. For like, this is what they did, this is, okay, it's right in that document. Their internet. All there and at one time, and again, going back to the details, that is something that, you know, we didn't know, now, all these, you know, one central spot. I mean, that's the rigor.
It's in history. Of the building.
Well, history of the project and the projects that have been done for as far back as we can go, that would be awesome. This was done in 2018, this was done in 19, whatever, as far as we can go back and see what's been done. Could be more transparent, because I can try to hide something, and we're not trying to hide anything. It's very clear then to council, who's ever on council, what has been done. So when we go ahead and in another year, the council will change again from us. So if it does change again, okay, here's your piece of paper, this is what has been done for the historical depot. This is what's been done for the Boy Scout cabin. It just is all there in that one spot. And everybody's on the same page, not well, I was here, you know, 15 years ago, this is what we did to it. Well, that's great, but let's see it all written down. So it's very clear, and that way there are no hard feelings that people are spending this much for this, we're spending this for this. And that was just very clear to the public and to the organizations themselves.
Sure. Do you guys have any recommendations or requests or thoughts for us? I mean,
would be a little bit more funding if possible, contributions, say, maybe there's a donation box that where people come in and have it more set up as like have these historic items talk to, go back and these kind of guys and get this stuff out. So if people really want to come in and maybe have some of the postcards that used to sell and cups, things like that, going to people, but maybe they could help offset some of these costs as well and help us contribute to maintain it. Number one, that's the biggest expense.
I think talk about coordinating with the Donald Trade and farmers. So there'll be three things to get people on 223 in downtown. We're in bed, say,
Yes.
people, so we gotta
Finally, there will be no company like we talked about. So again, let the the expensive, so we could be more efficient on those, we don't want to jeopardize those, but those on the inside of it all.
But it does, I'm still trying to get it to be on the outside because it was protected in the original windows. And I can't get any window company to talk to me about just making blanks and equipment from the outside. And I know how it can be done, we did it at our cottage, but I don't have to list their lumber. And so I'll make that a good, looking because we wanted store windows on there all this time, but just never got it done. And honestly, for quite a few years there, we were kind of not there, because keys were changed and certain people were in and going to fix it. And I'm so glad.
Right, again, these are great organizations and they're obviously there's community builds, so we understand of course that everything's at a cost. And it's always a challenge, talking 22 to 25,000 for the road this year. Again, what do we do with the windows, the next couple of years, how much is that gonna cost? And in utilities, you can help offset maybe some of the utilities. But again, by those donations, that certainly helps us because we're legitimately not in there anymore. The village is there, the EDA is not in there, that sort of thing. So again, it's sort of a.
But our history's in there.
Absolutely.
Our history's in there and that belongs to all of us and it belongs to the village. You need a home for that stuff. We really do. Okay, yes.
Marketing seems to be, as I'm listening to you, marketing seems to be the issue, in a way. And I think same thing with the Boy Scouts. And I don't have answers other than just making an observation that it's a marketing thing of getting more and more, getting your name and what is there out there in the public. So some things did jump into my head, and for whatever they're worth, because I'm just sitting there. Anything with the elementary and middle school and the schools, doing the tours for them, working with any sort of historical sections that they might be doing, and how to incorporate a field trip down to.
We did do a few the first year we were open. We had a couple groups that came through, a couple of school groups that came through. We get a lot of homeschool kids and they call us and they can come and do work. And so that's, you feel a good thing, but that's a great idea.
Yeah, if you can get 2 or 3 kids that are interested in those tours, maybe they'll be the ones doing, 10, 15 years.
Young somebody to take over. So funny, I think they scared, now sound, she's a teacher and she's a big history buff and I look at her and I go, you're gonna take my job. You guys scared her away. I said, it was like.
But projects that you need to have done as well, the scouting might be able to do that, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts might be able to do projects. Well, I used to be on the library board, and I know that there was an Eagle Scout who did something with the library. So maybe they're another potential partner. That's.
Well, I know that Eagle Scout, we had an Eagle Scout a long time ago, since it's all overgrown. Did landscaping at the Victorsville School. And so we keep an eye on the Victorsville School, but again, the school pretty much takes care of painting and all that, but John and I replaced the last front doors on there, and, you know, we used to go clean it every year, but now, Sandy Porter, she's kind of in charge of the third grade experience, and she gets it all cleaned up, and but Shelby and I go check it out every now and again and make sure that everything's okay, so.
So you're already in contact with.
Well,
with
no,
people.
actually, I think we should offer.
I like the idea of coordinating with the farm museum and the railroad. That's
Oh, yeah,
great.
they
So
reached
more,
out to
yeah,
us
that's
and said,
great.
hey, can we help each other? And
Great
we're going,
idea.
sure, but we're not, nobody's quite there yet, you know, and we're glad to coordinate with
Yeah.
and,
That's a great idea.
yeah, and,
Well, that's kind of the power loose, the dinner train and the
Oh.
sort of tourist idea behind the railroad, and you know, this town was kind of founded on that, you know, the oxen trade, things like that, so unfortunately, we don't really.
and there's
get
still
those things.
people back behind the stables that could benefit the farm museum, you know, and then also all the way down to the physical farm museum.
Yeah, I would recommend-
Having a direct with that.
Yeah, I like the advertising thing, I think that makes more sense, if we can get people to come in, if we can get these displays up, and, you know, gives people, you know, a tour to walk through and say, this is our history, you know. It's not a huge deal if I get it, but it's, you know, a bit of a layout, trying to get some of the stuff out.
We actually have a pretty good bunch of stuff that's out, and we have a lot of nice stuff to talk about. We always have one display that's changing. We have Blissfield State Bank, then we had Halfway House, and then, we'll do a business display. And now we're trying really hard.
We had a young lady from, up in Dearborn, she's going to Easter, and she's doing, a big paper on small community. Small hometown living, and she was at Depot, maybe a month ago for 3 hours. Talking about the history and about this, and now we have the merchants, we have a lot of pictures like from the third waves and memorabilia from a lot of the merchants, like the Valley Farm and all this stuff, and all about, all downtown. W in the Great Amsterdam, and, I gotta
We
tell
can
you,
digitize a lot of that stuff, I think. that
one
would
of
be
the
great
big gifts in
too.
the museum is the jail.
Yeah, the jail. You know, again, people have access to, you know, a lot of pictures, things downstairs that people don't get to see, so if we have another way of getting that information.
Well, I don't, well, sometimes I take people downstairs to the basement, because that's a meeting room, that's a storage room, that's really not open to the pubs, you know. We have, you know, we need, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on, all summer.
Are you guys 501c3 status? Are you aware of the Michigan History Alliance? They have a grant program.
We're members, and we have to look at that, honestly,
They do have a grant that's coming up that's people should be in by November 14th. My sister found this today and forwarded it to me. If you have an email, I can send it over to you.
ACJ. That's another thing, we need somebody just to look. They have to get you done.
Oh, it's good to see you guys growing, good to see you guys back in action, again, get a little bit more of them, you know, the younger crowd kind of getting interested in that sort of thing, so.
Well, and I have to tell you, it's a different world, just even planning and doing the bicentennial. People don't want to do history, and you want so much, you know, a little bit, but all the young families are off playing sports, and every weekend they do travel sports, and you know, it's just a different world. Everybody's so busy. Back when we had the Susquecentennial, oh my God. It was pretty crazy big and lots of, I mean, a whole week's worth of activities and shoot, for us to find and do what we did was
Every day, every day, and every day. Published every day. Yeah, during the social media.
Chris, you guys have other comments, questions? Again, let's continue to work together, but again, you know, it's about funding, Connie, and I know it's always a challenge.
Are you planning on a new lease? Or I mean, a new,
I don't know, an
This
updated-
lease is good until March 26th of 2032.
Well,
it's not.
I mean, is there an agreement at the end of clause where we can both terminate? People interested or rewriting that, right? I mean,
I think we need to.
Anytime if there's mutual agreement to amend, you have that ability.
we'll sit down and at another point, do some discussing on how we want to go about it.
Oh, yeah, you've all read it. You and I both signed it and I'm going. How can we sign that? Because even back then, I know, I didn't even think he had a key to the building, so why would I have signed that?
Well, if that's on the table.
Because you guys, I'm just throwing this out there. So, any fundraising events, is that like something you could do?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, usually it's a home tour, and this year it just physically couldn't happen. I mean, it just, I'm usually the one in charge and everybody helps me, but I just couldn't do it this year. And that's a good fundraiser. I mean, our biking, walking, we're charging $5. We probably ought to charge more, you know? We just, Adrian had their home tour for their bicentennial, but they had these gorgeous magazines for 5 locations or 4? 9 locations. Oh, wow. Their ticket was $30 and it was beautiful and well done, but they did it 2 days short hours. And, you know, we just need to get one again. We do. And
Well,
you're
obviously, things are gonna start to get busy again with holidays, when they come up. Can we, I mean, you guys have the lease copy, correct? We'll make sure you have it. We do as well. Let's kind of throw out some ideas, what we want to see change, what we want to see, you know, recommendations, and let's get back together at some point and say, okay, how do we want to rewrite this or go
Right.
out? If we can do it.
okay. Okay, that's.
Maybe we could move into maybe a committee of the whole like in Marchish. Would that be something, are you into
Yeah,
that?
before, yeah, March.
Well,
February,
your
or something like that. Anytime
students
after
will
you-
be February.
Okay, let's committee of the whole February then, yes. Sound good?
I like that. You guys go with that?
A lot of, well, things gonna be a little bit slow, but it's.
I need to
If we
get
wrap
so much.
it up, it's for the bicentennial.
We have close.
We have a couple things out.
We're gonna, the remnants of the books are gonna get wrapped up this.
But that money that we use for, that went to the bicentennial fund.
Yeah, yeah.
And you guys have a big lot to do with that. I totally get that. So, yeah, we appreciate it. I don't, we certainly would have had to buy something without your volunteers or something.
It was great, it was nice, I think it turned out well. We got together.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
We'll be in touch and come up with ideas on at least kind of we'll work together with. Couple minutes before we start.
That's to the point where it's so hard, it's right here.
They phone for notes and other things.
Are you describing that?
What sort of?
Yeah. We'll get those links back up to Welcome, Ryan. We're gonna take a few minutes, and then we'll get started there. Make a pit stop, but please, pull up seat if you get.
They were on the.
Oh, good. No, we're trying to make sure. Hair out of the line. We don't want like, I missed her castle.
You're right, you're right.
I think you're a little older.
Hello.
You're joining, now that the road.
Sure. That would be pretty, it would be fun to watch.
Yeah.
That is, yeah. That's the. There, I mean, come back in the series, they were down 2-0.
And then they get their root managed.
Yeah. They definitely said this is available. So there we go, one here, one here.
Filling space.
They kept showing it, yeah.
I didn't even know it was empty. I've lost track.
He struggled.
I'm going to warm up.
Yeah.
Here you go. Perfect, thank you. Thank you. You were out.
That your line.
I see you around time. I gave mine to Lisa. I'm okay. Oh, do you have extras? Thanks, Gary.
More copies, if you got. All right, we'll get started. First off, welcome, Ryan. Let's do roundtables for that, because it's been a while since I think we've probably all been together, and there's some new council or board members. So, I'm Mike Gunner, village president of Blissfield.
I'm Brenda Delgado, trustee of Right. Treasurer's council, new slash.
Danielle Gross, administrator.
Ken Nichols, council, and this year.
When you said, I can't recall when I came up, that I've been around. That doesn't sound good, but you're over here. I'll say that, yeah, I've been on council for a little while, thank you.
You're a Catholic, private township supervisor for the 13th year. It's like their own too.
Not been around together. Okay, Gary, all right.
Hey, Florentine, right township. Trustee.
Katie Us, Ragged Township Treasurer.
Eric Rogers, Blissfield Village Trustee.
Natalie Thompson, right township clerk,
Tim Waters, with council, 4 years.
been around, huh?
Yes. All righty. Well, again, it's good to have the two boards sit down here together. Obviously, we, kind of gone back and forth with everything else, area, et cetera, emails. Regarding the water rates, the sewer rates, whatnot. So again, There have been quite a few amendments from the original contract back when the project was built in 2000. There. So again, kind of getting all of us on board where we're at, as well as funding, rates, et cetera. So, I don't know how we want to open it up. I guess you guys kind of requested the get together, right? So, let's turn it over to you and we'll try to.
I'll start with the sheet I handed out to you. I noticed this, the flushing on 23 and 24 and 9 months into 25. And at the top one, you go across the top, total gallons, that's the total gallons that you ship to us. And you can see the 958,000, some of them are over a little over a million, but so that's that one. And then the next column, it says percent of flush, that's the percent that out of that amount that we've been flushing into the ragged ditch or my fire hydrant. One or the other goes in, and it goes into the ditches. And there's an automatic flusher, that's when flushing a ragged ditch, there's an automatic flusher there, that flushes in the evening when people are sleeping and flushes automatically. And then on the next column, it takes that amount of water and then gives you the cost, the cost for how much flushing in a ragged ditch in that given month. And then there's flushing by fire hydrant. They go out and check it, Lenawee County, and they check it, and then if it's not quality water, they have to flush by water, the fire hydrants, and that's usually out on Silver Horn Road. Right out there, they flush there, and you can see the cost for that one. Then I put the two costs together in the final column in that. But the main thing I'd like to emphasize, if you go down to 23 years, you can see, and another thing, notice there's certain months that it gets over the 1 million mark, and that's when they're making fertilizer or the farmers are spraying. And then usually every 10 days, they gotta go take the money out of the bulk water meter. And but that's why those are different. And so then each year, if you notice another thing, if you go down the total gallon used, like I said, it got just like in 23 cost us over $10,000 just to dump water in the ragged ditch or by fire hydrants. On the column way to your right, if you go to the bottom, you can see it on that one. That's put the rates there. 433, 453, 467, and now it's 581 on the side. But on the year 24, a little over 11 million or 11,000 for the year. But now we get down to 9 months into this year, it's 15,000 already, way at the bottom for only 9 months. And so all I'm saying to you is we're flushing more of the water in order to get quality water.
All right, so this sheet literally only is kind of talking about what we're wasting, number one, due to the line size, right? Which again, you're saying
That's
you're wasting approximately 15% a month just due to the design of that system.
Well,
Because the county or the state
that
requires that.
the question is,
Yeah.
And I feel like that's assuming that the water we start with is 100% up to par. And it's a big assumption.
Explain.
I'm saying like, you can't just say, oh, it's the right of line, because we don't know what the exact quality of the water is that we start with when your water hits our line. And so I don't think that we can absolutely start to say that it's just right as well.
Right, but I'm just saying,
But
throwing
we
that
are-
out there, that you're wasting literally 15% of what we're
Well,
billing you,
this-
just because
this-
of the
this-
quality issue.
Yes, we are just dumping water.
That much water is
don't,
Correct.
in order to get good water.
okay.
Because we have an overbuilt system.
Clarify that to me, what you mean, in order to get good water. I don't understand.
So we have to meet Eagle standards as well.
Okay,
Quality.
yes,
Yes,
keep going.
so when they go to test, if they're not hitting a certain quality, we have to flush the water.
So they come in, they test, they say it does not meet the quality. You have to flush the water, and you are saying for this period of time,
Yeah.
the 15,902, is this be water you haven't used for any consumption? Because what you're saying is dump, in order to meet the quality that Eagle is saying needs to be met.
They are underutilizing their lines. They have, quote, stagnant sitting water because they have an 8 or 10 inch line when they should have a 4 feeding their municipality.
When you make that, I
And
remember,
that's part of this
I
big
remember
problem.
that, we talked about the big one, I remember that, okay.
So,
That was a couple years
Yeah,
ago.
we're wasting ungodly amounts of water just to get a quality, quote, reading or test sample for Eagle requirements.
And that's at the end of the line?
We've always had automatic, not always, but a long time had automatic flushers at the end. This is additional flushing since the ethanol plant is closed down.
Okay, so where does Eagle take their samples
So
from the
the-
end of the line?
We test, Riga Township Hall is kind of the,
Right now, okay,
Then
it's
this,
kind of, it's the end of,
this is Jeffries is another
and
one.
Miss Jeffries is
That's
the
just
very
down at
last,
the
that's
end
the
of the line.
end of our line. Important,
Then there's another one.
but they're flushing, that's flushing is that, but extra flushing is that. so
But again, if you look at the 25th year, the amount of water is about the same, but we're having to flush more of it, dumping it. If you look, the percentage, you look at your percentages up in the top here, you're ready to about 15, 16, 17%. You get towards the bottom, you got 33, 40% last month. Why you don't?
It's unsustainable. That's
But again, if you look, you got 1.1 and go back up to September and the other one a little under a million, the other September up and the other one, 1.2 million up there. So what I'm trying to say is the same amount of water is coming, but we're having to dump more of it in the ditch.
Is Nora, Nora obviously aware of this situation. Comments that she's made on this or?
Because our engineers have met,
Yeah.
The new was called Eagle Engineer, is that what you mean, our engineer, like the Eagle Engineer?
yes, so our previous engineers met as well. Most recently, we do have a new one and they have a different Eagle engineer than the village does. Because Riga is classified by Eagle differently because we treat the water and they're a customer. Why Eagle does not give us the same one as Beyond Me, it would definitely simplify things.
So we have a Eagle person, you guys have Eagle person.
And they have met, and we have talked about this a lot, so we talked about, we put the mixers in that have never operated because then they tried to change their valves. Right after that, so we've not been able to check that, and Eagle wanted to see a 2-year period, it's been over 2 years, and I know that's one of the things that we've talked about. They've always had to flush their system, so does this include the auto flusher at the end?
Yes, very much. Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
I just want to make sure I understand. So they have the auto flusher at the end, which is, I think, and you guys correct me because it's your system, so I don't want to say this wrong, but I think a 2-inch flusher on their line. And then they do their hydrant flushing similar to what we do. But we do sample before it goes into their system, and the village does pass and meet all of the water quality standards when it goes into their system, and then
that's at the.
Where is that test point?
we're testing at the Marathon gas station. So we're testing before it goes into your system, and we purposely test at the end of our system to make sure, because when you guys are getting the water, that it's still, we're not dropping off before it comes to you, creating more problems.
So it leaves us, and it's it's quality, we need a standards. At the end of ours, which is the beginning of yours, you're testing at the end of yours, and this is where the issue is saying that it's not quality.
Well, are you meeting standards? Does that mean you're like just at standard or just about, I mean, like, you're not giving a, like, you're not sending in top, like, good quality water, you're sending like, we're just passing, or just meeting standards, so.
No, we're exceeding, I mean, we're
Well,
above
that's
our.
I mean, I feel like Eagle last time we talked to them, they were saying, or the thing we were looking at, it seemed like it was just like standard water coming in, like barely passing.
She's got one.
I don't have those exact numbers in front of
I'm
me,
gonna
if
make
you
a
guys
copy
want
of
them,
my
I'm more than
notes.
happy to send them, and I think we send them every year to you guys, but.
sir.
I don't know what you're classifying as, I'm not saying we're 50% better than what we're supposed to be, but we're not right at the standard with no wiggle room either.
Do we have the same engineer now?
No, we
See,
don't
that's,
not.
that's part of the problem, again, there's no reason that, it's the same system. Even though you have your own, we're feeding you, Eagle should be able to say, let's use the same engineer and be able to compare.
Right.
Their orders are able to say, at least there's one person that knows what the readings are, and then they can compare. When you have two people, probably don't communicate, that doesn't help the situation. I don't know why we can't get Eagle to say, you're dedicated to one engineer to work on a system, much like getting those valves open, to circulate the water from both sides. It's like they're almost buddy heads, they're not working together. You gotta have
They
somebody
wanted to see
who's
it
gonna
through their
communicate.
history.
Yes.
I don't know now they haven't. Do you guys know why?
Well, we've had better readings than we ever had. Since we've changed our source, like since we are not pulling from the tower.
But you haven't tried on the new mixers.
We haven't,
So you can't accurately say that you are having better readings now because you're operating on the tower before the mixers.
well, correct, so historically, so it's been 2 years, but so I think there's a hesitancy to say, well, let's try something that used to be bad, and I think right now, like, are you able to test the water in your mixer to say it's better than what it used to be?
So we already sample, I guess, that this is.
So the problem before us was, it's always about retention time, right? I mean, you've got a different quality when you start at the plant and when you get to the end of your line. And so obviously, and there's longer retention, so that's like by the time it gets to the line that comes to Riga, it's already been in a line, so we're already dealing with some retention. You're already lost, and so the question is always, we have a consecutive water system. So it's meeting quality, but is there still I think that's always a hard thing, we're not getting the same quality of water at the start of our system that you get at the start of your plant. That's just because there's retention, and that's fine, but we're always probably up against, we're already a little bit behind. Because our system is starting with water that's already been through one system. That water, so before, the water in the towers was retaining longer, it wasn't being mixed, it wasn't being circulated. And that is the water that's coming into Reagan. We were only getting water from the tower. So the retention line, so again, longer retention has been sitting in the tower. I absolutely think putting mixers in was a great idea. It's probably improved the quality there. But I think from our perspective, but that's your water, you should know. So we shouldn't have to put it through our system for you to know if it's improved your water.
Eagle won't let us, correct?
Well, no, we have sampled our water and I don't know, I'd have to talk to Nora about historical, because the mixer came in right about the same time I did, so I don't know before that if we've had a lot of change, but I mean, we are cycling that water and you guys have never tested, and I understand what you're saying, that you're hesitant, but you're failing still, so.
So I think that Eagle meeting but we haven't met again after, because there's another group, the Great Lakes group is kind of taking our case and is working on some stuff, right? So the engineers haven't requested another meeting with this group. But I do believe at that meeting, there was presentation of data, and so when you look side by side over time, when Riga has poor water, Blissfield also has poor water. A lot of it's correlated. We have a terrible source. The river basin is terrible. That's right. That's for all of us.
That's right.
So, but if you can show data, and it's better, worse. When you can show this isn't 12-inch Riga line, we both have an issue. We have more of an issue because ours is further down the system.
But we should be having the same issues at Cold Westbrook, right? I mean, they're almost the same distance to Riga from the opposite side of our line. Riga literally feeds from our tower straight there, right? I mean, it's not a huge
Well, we don't,
change.
nothing feeds straight in our system because we don't have a
Right, but I mean,
a
they're closer,
distribution
they're
line, so we're
closer.
all just connected, so water's gonna take the path of least resistance, and it's gonna,
It's
wherever
just
it's being
part of the
pulled is where it's
west side
gonna
of town.
go.
It's just part of the west side of our town, so if we should be able to test on
And
the
we
west
do
end.
test there
So
as well.
There, you know, what
I
we should be
mean,
able
but
to
you're
compare.
not wrong, because logically, common sense tells us that if we have slumps in our water, you're also, because you're getting the same water. But the issue is that it's added to your system because of your aging water. So you're right, like if our water is high, yours is gonna be better. If ours is lower, yours is gonna be lower, but you shouldn't be significantly lower. And that's
It takes
the,
significantly lower, depending on where you start, because like, if this is potable water, and we got a range of potable water. If you're down here, if we start with this water, it's not significant to get that TTHM, so we have, we're sending a notice.
Are you testing at both your, say, the Couch Pile Fire Department and at your meter pit at Silverhorn? Because you should be able to compare your two numbers, right? Is there a large discrepancy there?
I have to look for sure.
Because that would be our answer. Anything that we're feeding good up to that meter pit at Silverhorn, then you're gonna know it's past your system. Here's your test there, and here's your test at the end of your system. That should help dictate again where, you know, where the issue is. So. I get, yeah, it's an ugly situation. It is an ugly source, and you know, people may hate the water, they may not like the water, they may not like smelling it, not like the taste. Again, our water does meet the standards and the requirements that are set forth by the state. So again, number one, you know, I want the public to understand that we are providing safe water. I don't like the smell, I don't like the taste, I get it, and I don't like the source. Like we discussed, it's terrible, and that's why we're sort of going back to the basics and saying, we're looking at other options with engineering. You know, things like that, but again, number one, I think it's a matter of us working with Eagle and saying, how do we get the answers that we've been asking for how many years, to open up another valve, to try to feed it the other way, again, to try to maybe work with the alcohol plant.
What do you mean by feed it the other way?
It's only feeding one through one source, correct, Danielle, right now, and we want to open the other way to feed up. So, or it feeds
well,
up.
they're just feeding
It feeds up.
backwards from what they used to, is my understanding.
There's literally no circulation right now because that valve is
We're
closed.
getting-
There should be a redundancy.
We're getting water when you make it, so the Jensen line comes in, it's like, as it's leaving the plant, we get it leaving the plant. Or before, it was leaving the plant, going to the tower, we got it off the tower
Both of them at the same time.
When was that changed?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, okay. So what, any ideas of what you think happened, say November of 24 into December of 24?
We do it.
Because I'm looking at the third column, percent flush. November, there was just a little over 1 million gallons and you flushed 19%. Then December, you had 793 gallons and you flushed 36%. So from that point on down to the present, huge increase that's been maintaining, if not increasing. Any idea what has anything changed mechanically? Did we get a new engineer? I'm trying to play catch up on all of this, Gary and Natalie, so. As I look at the data, something changed there. And I don't know, this hearing about, we have two different engineers. I think we can all pretty much agree that anytime we get stuff sent to us from Lansing, we rebuff it immediately, because we don't like being told what to do. And we're, especially if it's not, it doesn't seem to make sense for what our situation is. And you're right, we start off with lousy water to begin with, I understand that, so.
So in just,
Yeah, go ahead,
the Eagle engineers are not boots on the ground,
okay,
so that just. Yeah, so just, I was like, so anytime we're talking about our testing, like the Lenox County Drain Commission is our O&M, like they do operations and maintenance, but like there's no Eagle engineer running a fire hydrant
okay.
or anything like that.
And then
So
for
that's-
us, is it Nora's crew that's doing
It's
testing?
DPW.
That's BPW, okay, so at least, all right,
So the Eagle guy doesn't come out and physically take the measurement, the
No.
test and take it back and test it in his lab.
No,
So
they
actually,
just
our water gets tested with you guys.
so what decisions is Eagle making here?
They decide like if we want to change the routing of our system. So they had to agree for us to shut the mixer off, or not the mixer, but the tower. To
Okay.
go, and that was available because the ethanol plant is not running.
Any changes to your system.
But any changes,
they-
Eagle has to.
And that's for
stamp
either.
Oh, we paid for that mixer and we haven't been able to utilize it or.
Well, you use your, I mean, since that's your water too, so you're using it.
Right, but again, we haven't been able to get a test from it to see if it's benefiting you by feeding it the other direction.
Is it benefiting you?
It wasn't necessary for us. We tested by
You're saying it wasn't necessary for us.
to install that mixer. That mixer was specifically installed to improve the quality for riding.
And it was installed where? At our plant or further down in the
Water tower.
in the water tower?
Water tower.
And it has not, but you're not pulling your water off that tower anymore. So the mixer is now irrelevant?
We
Does
just
it go
request.
with
the
you?
No,
mixer.
no, no, I'm just trying to gather
It's
the
all the
facts.
same water, like after hours, if your plant isn't producing water, your water usage is coming from the tower. That's how that pressurized system all works. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but that's my understanding. Like, your plant doesn't make water at night. People use water at night, but water is coming from the tower.
Is everything that's been said so far, Danielle, accurate?
I do believe so. That's what, I can pull the.
It's
Put 'em
not
down
like it's
on
made
that
a water
testing. I don't
tower, so
think
like
the
a
mixer
service
has
right over
changed
the water
our-
tower, like that's
That's-
part of your pressurized.
That's like good or bad.
That's your,
I do, yeah, that, my understanding is we had put that in because, to try to help Riga because of the issues that they were having. And there was no impact, positive or negative to the village, we kind of stayed.
So that's,
So then so then Riga is getting water at night from the tower as well, or not?
they've done,
no, because of our line, we get it on the way to the tower.
they've not gotten any water from the tower. with the
So if
mixers yet.
anything. Okay. So with testing points, to me, it would make sense that Riga's water would be a lot more consistent than people who have to utilize the tower. If Blissfield people at certain times have to utilize the tower, then their water should not test as high a quality as what Riga water should test,
Yes.
because you're always pulling straight from the plant.
In
Correct.
theory, the retention line should be different.
Yeah,
That's kind of
okay,
weird.
so for
No,
some
I don't
reason
know
it's
how many
not.
times- I don't know what the standards are. I don't know if any of us are testing at night either. Like, I don't know.
Well,
And that would be one thing if moving forward, I think if we, just in general, see like, what is, I mean, like, we're supposed to provide Riga with good water. Like, I think if we had a more consistent, like, we're all testing the water on the same day. So we really have a better accurate, like, if your testing schedule's on Tuesday and ours is every other third, I don't know when they test.
Sure.
But like,
Sure.
you know, sometimes like, even those data points, I think. Would probably be more beneficial, like, if you tested Westbrook at the same time you're testing Riga, like, I think that some of that data would be really beneficial to everybody. And I don't, that's again, we've got different equal engineers, there's been different mandates, because we're two different systems, but that's something that I don't know, we can't say.
How do we work smarter together on this? Because this doesn't make sense. We don't flush this. Do we know our flush rates, percentages?
We don't have to flush like that.
We flush twice a year, we don't flush every month like they do. And really, we do that for scouring purposes of our line, it's not because of aging water.
If I, maybe this is really simplistic, but my impression is going on with Mike's meeting this, that on a neighborly kind of a way, out of goodwill, if you will, the mixers were put into the tower to hopefully help you guys. And you're right, that's a really simple way to say that, but that's kind of what we were thinking, is we're gonna do this to help you guys because you're paying crazy amount of money for your water. But if you guys aren't using that water with the mixers, then how do we know whether or not it's better or the quality, better or worse quality? How do we do that? How do we do that? Why don't we do that? I'm not quite on that page with you.
I don't think Eagle has signed off on that, I think that they have still.
That's what we're still waiting. How much longer do we have to that?
They said they wanted to see 2 years and we're over 2 years. I think we're
That's what you're
actually
saying.
coming up on like 2.5 technically, but again, they did meet
Just
where
what you're saying, okay.
the ball is they have to approve that.
So how?
So the two different engineers have met?
Yes,
Yes.
Wait, and they have to approve exactly what?
They have to approve a change to Riga's system, and ours would have to ours too. So because they're changing the flow of their system, their engineer has to approve it.
Was the change from using the tower to feed Riga to straight from the plant, was that an Eagle approval thing as well? And that was,
Yes.
and that took a ridiculous amount of time as well, they wanted 2 years to sample that, or was that kind of like, oh yeah, that makes.
No, that was, I mean, I think it became an option that had never been an option before, was a, like. We have repeatedly had water samples, like your quarter after
This is
quarter.
something's goofballing here. So my thing is, if so the mixers in the tower were not helping.
The mixers didn't exist.
We don't know.
We don't
So
have that
that's
kind
what we're
of
trying, I
change.
thought, what's with this recirculate? What is it then are we waiting for Eagle to do? You're saying approve the process change, what
So
exactly is the
Blissfield
process
has
change?
requested that we go back to using the tower. With the mixers, that now has the mixers,
But they did not have the mixers before.
correct?
Okay,
And there's a redundant system, so they're feeding from one direction, we wanna reopen it back to the original direction that it's been.
So,
And that's what Eagle will not
no
allow.
mixers initially.
no mixers in
No
that place.
mixers initially.
Were you
Okay.
getting these kinds of flush rates, percentages and water loss?
I think the fact we have to flush it all. is part of the problem.
I'm sorry,
The
That,
fact we have to flush anything.
So,
is-
we have to go back and look, prior to
Oh,
two
yeah.
thousand nineteen, we did not flush from a hydrant.
Since what year?
2019, when the ethanol plant stopped producing. So you get a large volume user pulling a lot of water, which kept water moving.
okay.
Right, which goes back to the size, the design of your
The
system,
12 inch.
Okay.
why it was designed so large. And again, we've discussed this, you're reading the paper weekly, how unfortunately or fortunately. Riga residents or whatever, people don't wanna see anything happen, they don't want anything to build, they don't wanna see any more development. Well, guess what, that's compounding your problem, because you have an over-designed system. If they wanna sit and twiddle their thumb and say, this is farmland, we don't wanna do anything. I'm sorry, that system is overbuilt, and you're gonna have stagnant water sitting in there, that's just a fact of the matter, there's no way around it, it's too large of a system. So you've got old water,
Who built this system? And why?
it's in our contract there, you.
We built
it's a US
Right,
contract.
yeah, you guys got a grant and loan, right, and built that. I don't know who designed it.
There's so in your documents here. There's a relationship established. First, because, and I apologize, I'm new.
That's how we all learned. This is good.
Just reading the document. It says in here that the relationship initially began a contractual relationship because of the sewer. Then somewhere in here, we went down the water. Right? And then somebody built this system, because there's a lot of discussion here about your system and our system, all the water comes from you. I don't, we don't knows where it comes from. But I think part of the thing is that I found in the program is that. So that a contractual relationship. And we do. In places. And then, hooked up with water, because the water we're getting from you, not meeting that standard. There's a lot of talk about your system and our system. All this comes from you. I don't know who made the system, I don't know who nobody here.
That's why I think I would like to see the numbers at. Your beginning meter pit and your end line meter pit, let's compare.
I just don't, still think this doesn't even make sense to me.
I think it's the piping system, maybe, that's what, that's
Well,
what we're
dig it
talking about,
out.
it's not that
Let's
water
put
is.
a 4 inch.
Or you can do a 4 inch if you have fire hydrants.
What's the
And that's
number?
a legal, so
6?
you'd have to do at least a 6 inch main to have a hydrant.
How long is this big main for? Where's it starting with? How much?
So you guys, we gave you a portion of our line, because, and some customers to help you guys fund your project along, 223. The rest of it, you guys funded the construction, designed it, got it permitted and everything.
Yours is that construction, the big old line. I mean, okay. Going to it and. Oh, 1999. Okay, 19.
This is the reference to Midwest,
So 1999, the big old. Type of code is 312 watt, okay, then you're saying really no issue until 2018. Then there were no funds.
Oh, there's always, well,
They were just flat.
we had additional flushing. But that.
That's
Initially, they put in the automatic flusher, they've been in longer than I've been here.
okay, so there was flushing pre the,
Yes, yeah, plans to comment them shutting down, yeah.
so there was flushing then,
Yeah.
but since it has closed, there's been compounded flushing. I thought you meant there was no flushing prior to that.
No,
So there's
it's
flushing.
not unusual for a water system to have an end of line flusher.
Okay, okay.
I'm kind of
there was
surprised,
some
Blissfield, I mean, like, it's not unusual for a water system to just flush water at the end of line.
But-
So we've had those.
there. But since the ethanol plant has been gone, there's been an extreme amount of flushing, and that's where you're like, well, why do we have to flush? That's your point.
As far as the question. then-
They're like, I went and thrown in the.
So,
They have to flush it until they're getting a certain reading, and I don't know what that level is, there's something right there. There's something to there, you know,
yeah, so, it looks like this agreement's been changed 5 times, 6 times.
they're proposing a sixth.
All right, so you're proposing the 6th, right? So. So it's just kind of, so. I know this is my dad, I have a relationship with people that buy stuff. And but we're buying more. The rates. Change the terms of the contract, we used to pay a different rate than you're saying we should pay. It's part of the discussion. It looks like we used to be necessarily the wholesale customer. But that we buy water from you and then we pass it on to our people, we put a modicum, charge, because we do the OEM on our system. So now you guys have changed the rates to reflect that the rates that you charge people in the village, because you do the maintenance. And now we're paying the same fee as them, according to your latest amendment. That seems off to me, so I don't know what.
That is, and that's a good point. So we're talking number one, kind of two sides, quality, and then this maintenance sort of discussion. When we're talking about capital improvements, things like that, and I know we kind of had a parking lot talk as well about it, and I agree with them. Forgive my crappy drawings here, but I think the point is, yes, we have two separate systems. We literally do. We provide it up to that meter, and you guys your own system to feed your village. I got sort of our I think Dave is. That we're charging the same amount at the capital improvement side for Ryder residents for the rest of the village of Blissfield. And again, we have a line that literally feeds, you know what I mean, here forever here in Blissfield that feeds out to Ryder and it sort of circulates. This is their system, we have this system. So again, it's not 100% that our system produces or has to be maintained for their system. They have to pay, their residents have to pay to maintain their system, their lines. What makes sense to me is that they would supplement, they would pay for only what the plants and the lines that feed them, and the rest of these sort of other offshoot lines that feed our town would fall back to the realm of the village. So how do we come up with some sort of percentage? Say, we've got 40 miles of lines, Rodney has 5 miles of lines. They pay whatever percentage, you know what I mean, to feed them. It almost seems like the village of Blissfield is double dipping. Because we're funding our maintenance of our system, that they also have to quote fund our maintenance, our system on one rate. And also are gonna have to maintain their own system on their residents. So it seems like
The responsibility of having that money put aside for the future, and their future depends upon our future.
absolutely,
So,
yes. But if we're saying it's, you know, we have $10 million worth of projects over the next 5 years, we're gonna do 2. I mean, that benefits a lot of the system that doesn't, that you already not utilize, they have nothing to do with any of these anything less than the river.
Well, they do, but if we don't have a system, they don't get water.
That's the same.
But they're locked down.
And we
Those
don't,
lines
we
up
don't
there,
have a
you know,
transmission line to them. Your justification would make sense if we had a line that came from our plant to Riga,
Right.
then they're not impacting our system, but they are because it goes whichever way through our system that has to be maintained in order to supply them water.
We're not a direct system. There's not a direct.
They're not, but. Up to the meter, it's very similar. It's sort of a straight shot. Yes, we have offshoot lines that feed, you know, Gibson Street, Cherry, et cetera, whatnot. But again, the main line that goes out to Rocket, quote, whatever, a 12-inch line with some of our offsets up. Our lift stations don't have it. On this side of town have literally nothing to do with Rocket.
If we don't have our lift stations maintained, they get no water. They
Correct.
have to pay for it.
But
Am I wrong on that?
but them maintaining their system doesn't benefit us at all, right? We don't see any.
But we don't get any money from that.
Right,
They get,
But
whatever
they're
they
funded.
charge additional goes 100% to them.
right, but they're funding to maintain our entire system as well as maintain their own
But
system.
they're not funding our entire system. They're funding a portion of it based on their residents. Our resident, we have 1,561 taps that pay for our system. They have 125. So their 125 is paying the same portion as our 1,561. If you can't say if they're paying the same, then what our 1,561 is what Riga would be paying.
There's also a level, I guess, that I'm confused about, is that like, we then have to pay the county to read our meters and take care of our lines and do all that, but yet we're still like, our citizens are responsible to pay, like, you got a chunk of your salary coming out of the water and sewer budget, so does the treasurer, and you, like, you know what I mean, I'm just like, it's like, okay, but you're not reading our lines, you're not, you know, sending our bills, you're not doing any of that for us, and we're having to pay someone else. So like, that's where, yeah, we're duplicating those costs because, you know, you're not giving us any of those benefits, so like, my friend Kira that lives in the village, yeah, she's helping pay for all those services that she's getting, and none of my residents are getting any of those services.
Well, you're getting some, but not all.
Yeah, but not a lot, you know.
Okay, I hear you.
You know, so that's where we have to speak up for our residents, cause it's like, they're like, wait a second, you know,
I
like,
hear you.
you know, why should I be, you know? I guess that's where it's, you know, I get the whole, like, you don't have water, you know, then we don't have water, but. I mean, you guys could have a system and we, you know. Like, I mean, we could go get water, I don't know, we can't, but you know what I'm saying, like, you're not dependent on us. Like, we could shut our line tomorrow if we were allowed to, I know we're not, like, you know, and it's not gonna affect you guys at all. I mean, it might a little bit, but, you know,
I do. I hear where you're.
yeah. So those are the questions I always
So
have,
your,
like,
your questions are the readings of the meter.
we have readings, the billing, all that we pay for, we have to go and pay for, you know. And some of that money is that every resident in Blissfield pays for goes towards those services that we're not getting.
I think ultimately it seems like the original agreement wasn't as neighborly as we feel like we should be.
Well, I think the original agreement was just written in a completely different time. Our
Yeah.
rates for everything was
Correct.
$40 a month. And we've
Correct, yeah.
seen
But that's-
significant
but what I'm saying is, like, it
increases
just-
to the village.
I think in the spirit of like, we are neighbors, we can work together, the contract, the fact that we are paying that full, it just doesn't really. Like, we are essentially a bulk customer, but that's not the agreement, and so I think that the agreement in general, just, it doesn't reflect. A good neighbor spirit of like. You're right, maybe it's not, like, maybe you shouldn't pay 100% of our cost. Maybe there is a margin that we could take out. I don't know what the number, I'm not saying we need to pay nothing. You know, there is a little bit, but there's also benefit, like when you did your sewer plant, you get a USDA loan, you use our numbers to help reduce your costs for that sewer plant. Like, there are neighborly things that happen. We can have a nice relationship. So I think that would be, I mean, ultimately, a big ask would be, can we consider a more neighborly agreement? Yeah, that's more reflective, like, and this is a whole, like, I don't know if you had a separate fund that paid for like all new water meters. I think there was like $1 million expense to the system. Riga didn't get any new water meters, but we paid a portion of that $1 million expense. That's just one example of a big ticket item that we just sent it to you. It's kind of a bonus. So, but there may have been a grant.
Not there.
So, but
That was
So not,
not the.
what did we use?
The grant we got for the lead service line identification.
yes, the lead lines did get replaced by the state. I know we did not do that.
Right, so much like that maintenance agreement that we are paying for these meters. Throughout the next, 30 years or whatever. That's only been benefiting the village of Blissfield residents, it's not benefiting, right? Yet they're paying for a portion of that project because they come from our system, and we only have one rate from our system.
Does your, asking, how do you guys do your readings and mailing?
We contract with the Lenawee County Drain Commission.
That's what you're saying earlier, and that's what your contract does, this.
Correct. Yes, as a board, we make decisions, but we don't meter read and we don't send billing. Gary does do a little bit of meter information relaying.
Okay.
This is nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, the neighbors do it all the time. Adrian sells to Madison, Toledo sells to, number of municipalities, right? I mean, again, say it over and over, we're not reinventing the wheel here. How can we do some research and say, how are other municipalities? What is, what is Berkeley paying for Toledo? What is Metamora? How are those costs passed on? Is it literally 100% and it's spread across the board? Is there some sort of percentage?
That is,
We should be able to get those answers. This is
I'm saying we are also paying for the services of the engineers to take a look at the other services for the water. So
That's on your agenda next month.
right, so we're gonna be having that discussion and we're gonna be making that payment, for lack of better words.
Well, and we'll find out what
What it
other
would cost.
communities are paying as
Right,
well. That's gonna be part of it.
So we'll be finding it out. So we are, I mean, would be, I respectfully, Naomi, I say this. I don't know how neighborly we have been in the past. I honestly don't. Okay, I think it's great that we're here having this dialogue right now. I think this is really important. I should be done more maybe the ones every 2 or 3 years, an annual kind of a thing. But we recognize the river for what it is. And we are also taking a look at, the board, council has said that we're gonna go forward. What else is there out there? Let's have that dialogue, and that's what we're in the midst of going to be doing. And that's gonna have a cost. Well, we're gonna be paying that cost. So I guess what I'm saying is we are trying to do the neighborly thing to a degree, maybe not to everything you guys are looking for, but one of them was things about my God, I'm going crazy here. The mixers are the tank. That was a goodwill faith kind of a thing. This reading down is a goodwill thing. Sounds to me like there's some things that you need to have the discussion about. The reading meters, things like that. I don't have answers for that. I hear where you're coming from. You make some valid points. Mike, you're making valid points too. I think we all are making valid points. I don't have answers. Dave, I know you've got more things that you're concerned about as well.
Well, I just want to understand that if we have a contractual relationship with you. So if you do, then I don't know how you amend it without our consent. And you sent us this thing, here you go, your rates are increasing double digits. Right, that's.
Would be Harvard rate increase, or because literally amendment 6 just pieces amendments 1 through 5 to the original.
It's hard to localize my little part.
But you know what I'm saying? This final amendment just consolidates all the original amendments, the original contract.
No.
The rates
Three
change.
items.
Yeah,
The rates change. And
that's the catalyst event for me personally. Right.
but that's just facts of the matter. With the rates change for the bill of Blissfield residents.
That doesn't change my feeling.
Yeah. No, I get it.
understand what you're doing. I just, because we already know this, I've already contracts, so I did it here. And you can't change these things. Without consent or mutual agreement. Says in here, right, you can't do it.
I sent you guys that two proposals with CFS and without back in July and asked if there was any questions, if we could have discussions. Then sent it again without CFS, and that was the first time I got a response. So I agree with you. We would love to come to the table and have a discussion and meet about this, but when we send information and get no response back, I'm not gonna beg you guys to come to the table.
That is very true, because we asked.
And
if those
prior to
meetings
me, I
ever-
can't speak, but I set a reminder for myself every July to send you guys any potential fee changes that are gonna be coming out, so that we can have a conversation well before they go into effect in October. I would send them sooner, but I usually do not know sooner than July. And this year, I will tell you, was unique. I sent you both, this is the rate structure. If we can get ZFS on and negotiate with them, this is without.
Well, ma'am, I'm not sure why you're telling, so. But we bargained here together with CFS in order to try to work out, like, what are they doing, what's the rate gonna be, where are they going? You know, you were very clear, that they were our customer, this was our problem, our system. And we attempted to get something resolved, but we couldn't do it. I do think private CFS is a little bit, you know, stuck in the mud there with their number, and you guys endeavored to do your part, and we got closer than I thought. Whatever, I don't know what they're doing, that's, you know, that's a private enterprise, you know, profit driven, they gotta do their thing.
Well, we all know we can't supplement them on the backs of your residents.
Well,
or
yeah,
our
we can't either,
residents,
so we want them to be
As much as we want them.
successful, you know, we passed the resolution. Go team. But until we crack this nut, right, and I don't know the answer. I don't.
Well, I had to go back to what Danielle was stating. So if there was information and it was sent your way and you don't hear anything, what would you like us to do?
So when you present a rate schedule, are you saying like, feel free to comment and we'll negotiate our
Well,
rates? I
let's-
feel like that's just say like, this is your rate, so be prepared, because if we don't change our rate.
I didn't see the email, because what does it roughly, what does it state?
I could pull it up, but yes, I would like that information. If you guys have questions or concerns, I don't know otherwise. Now, is it going to change at the end of the day? Maybe not, but at least then I can share that information with council. Or I can say, hey, Riga's brought up some valid questions. We need to all get together, but if I don't hear anything, I don't know.
From a council standpoint, when we hear that the administrator has reached out twice and there's no response, what are we saying? We don't know either. Our thought is they don't want to play the playground. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that is a justified thought.
Stance. We don't need to solve it.
I asked if you all received that information. Did you see that?
Yeah, I highlighted it. I
The
responded.
reason there wasn't a response over the last 13 years, you guys said this and that's what it is. There's no change that when Monica was still here, this is what it was, and you could talk, you're rolling the face. But I'm just saying, that's why it's been for 13 years.
I
And you
understand,
set the rates and say, we got to get that card because you need the money.
but I think,
I look at you guys and stuff, and see all the people eating out of this waterfront and I can't believe it.
well,
I can't believe it.
Gary, is this, though, I guess what I want to see is that, just for y'all, and this is that Danielle has been here approximately 4/4.5 years. And then before this time frame, I'm aware of us going over there to your place once.
Yep.
Okay, so I would look, honestly, I would look for that as, okay, we've got a new administrator, she does want to have this discussion. She is having this discussion with you via email. So I would look at this, Jim White, I'd say, I appreciate what you're saying. But that was then, and now she is here now, and if she's here now, and she's, you know, she's giving you the information prior to it, that date or whatever, and she's asking for a discussion, I would think that would give out the open hand to say, hey, we do want it.
2 years ago when we met, what came out of it? We had a big meeting in Rice, what came out of it? Nothing. But it boils down to, if you guys need X amount of dollars to operate this system, and you gotta find something else. That's what it looks like from the outside. And I look at this thing right here and I see everybody eating out of there. I can't believe it. I can't believe who's eating out of it. You guys got a cash cow. You got a cash cow. And you're using the water. Why don't you go to the voters and ask for raising the millage?
We can't.
Why?
Wait, where are you saying, where are you saying we're supplementing other things on the water or the sewer?
I looked at this report today, and I see all the people getting their salaries, they're getting fringe benefit package, and it goes right from the top, right out to the, out there into the DPW. I can't believe it, what I'm trying to say to you, I can't believe it's costing this kind of money to operate the system.
You're right,
And
that is a lot of money, it's very.
You know, I look at the country public school, I taught this for 28 years. And when I'm away, I'm not in favor of it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not in favor of it. They privatize the kids. They privatize the bus. They privatize the custodian. They privatize the secretary. And why did they privatize? They had to find some money to keep the system going.
Yes.
And I'm not in favor of privatizing, but all I'm saying to you, it's an option, if you like it or not.
And that's
It's
exactly
an
what we're
option,
saying.
if you like it or not.
We're paying for consultants and engineers to look at those options. Riga residents are
Yeah.
also paying for those engineers as well. We're trying to look at how do we keep the rates down, and how do we do this most
Bingo.
effectively and efficiently? Absolutely. But if you're looking at rates and studies of DPW maintains a lot of the system. The water plant, we have to fund that from those enterprise funds. The water plant and the sewer plant, those employees do those purposes. They work for the water, they work for the sewer. So much like our treasurer and our clerk, they send water bills, they print this stuff out, they do the readings. So again, that all comes back into that system. Everything is budgeted where it needs to be based on what funded funds.
It gives you a true cost of
But
what.
we're certainly not transferring water or sewer rates to build a multi-purpose gym or tennis court or anything like that. That's absolutely not true. Anything that is coming from that fund, it's based on the fee schedule on what it actually costs money to maintain the plant, to operate the plant. If DPW go out, water turn offs or shut offs or reads or anything like that. So again, I think you're misreading some of the numbers in that file.
Who does your, when you guys were telling me about the meter reading, like if somebody does not pay the water, who shuts off the water? Does our DPW do that?
No, we don't shut off water, we put everything on their tax bill, so I just did a special assessment, so every year, anyone that's delinquent on water and sewer goes on their tax bill. And on, and then we have our hookup fee for when they hooked up. If they don't pay that, then they have that too.
I was
Yeah.
for that.
So then we never
But
had to
if
shut off.
Shut off water, the drain.
Yeah, the drain commission would do it, we had to.
Dave, going back to your request, looking at you again, business wise, I don't think we could provide you like as a bulk water system. You're not like this, you're not like CFS, you're not this. And you then entity, it's literally spread across the municipal board of. You have individual customers, and again, if we try to do that, much like we do with CFS, that's falling on the backs of our residents who pay more because we're quote giving you a bulk water rate. It is what is and yes, we have to get this information not only up to you, but the residents who are obviously pissed off about the rates and things like that don't understand why it costs this. Why is it 1.6 million that costs us for, that we're raising for revenues, but we're putting 1.6 million back into the system for operations, for maintenance, for improvements, for salaries and wages, all of that sort of stuff. We really need to do a better job of getting this information out of breaking these things down and saying, this is what it costs, this is what we charge. It has to balance out, or at least make a little bit of money for future capital improvements. We're not just raising funds on the water and sewer rate, shuffling it to do these other projects. They're staying in-house, and as ugly as the numbers are, that's what it has cost us to provide that system. Are we looking at other options? Yes. Would I love to have a reservoir as talked about 20, 30 years ago? Yes. Can we maybe pump water from Toledo, from Adrian, etc.? There are other options. That is something that we are doing. We're pumping the brakes. We're taking a step back and we're going to say, hey, consultants, engineers, this is money well spent to say this is the best option, right? We've got plant staff that are probably nervous that we're looking at these options because I get it as well. That's their job, that's their livelihood. But again, we are thinking about the long-term fiscal responsibility of our residents, how do we do this most effectively and efficiently? Secondly, we have not provided you unqualified water. We've always been within those limits. At the end, I would love to see the numbers to say, what is it at, what is it at our plant? What is it at our meter or your meter and our dead ends? Because that's gonna help us control a little bit. Where is the problem, right?
Well,
Number two, we need to give the Eagle the pain in the butts. They need to allow us to do our jobs and say, let's open up the system, the redundant lines, so that, the different gauge or valves. And say, yes, speaking from the tower, the 25 or 30,000, how much do those mixers cost us that we put in there? Literally doing buckets for us, right? They're doing nothing for us because, again, we're not feeding you from that tower with the mixers. So again, that was a waste of money technically, because we are not getting the benefit, we're not seeing the benefit out of it. Eagle needs to work with us. We need to sit down with them and we need to say, we need one go-to person. We don't need a bunch of bureaucracy, and a bunch of people butting heads or not communicating. We need to say, how do we make this more effectively? Number three, your system is vastly overwhelmed, and that is a problem. How do we solve that problem, right? That water is sitting, why is it growing? The ethanol plant's not pumping. I don't know if L&W is working 3 shifts as well. So again, you guys are using a lot less water than you used to. You're not getting the benefits of getting that newer water flushed through. That's a benefit, or that's a problem on your system. That's let's take baby steps here. Let's get the numbers. Let's start at our system. We'll give you some numbers we can compare. Give us your numbers, and then we're going to know accurately where we're at. Where's the breakdown in the quality? I think that's step number one.
I'd like to go back to John. We have a contractual relationship. We are a stakeholder at a minimum in this endeavor. Would appreciate some level of participation. I'd like to hear the things about you. You're saying we, you, they. How are we not in this thing together?
Yeah.
It is us. Absolutely, the system, I don't know nothing about it, we get the water from you, it goes, I don't know. We're a stakeholder, and we want a level of participation. We wanna know what you're doing. Whilst you're deciding making these decisions, because it impacts us and our people with your water, and then it goes back to you through the duty.
I'm gonna address that right here, meaning that we have gone ahead, and I think that we've done our due diligence in a lot of things since past 1.5 years. Honestly, I say that because we have gone ahead since those years. We have gone to 3 different avenues for looking at our water bills and how we charge water fees. Would that be accurate, Danielle? Meaning this, first of all, we had Michigan Rural Water. So we started with that. When Jim Wanacott was here, that wasn't a part of the game. That came on. That helped us better with our fees, okay? After Michigan Rural Water, we improved and we went to Bazinski. I said Benzinski,
Which was in large part due to BFS who they paid for that for us.
Was the PowerPoint presentation you shared? Their whole study, is that all they figured out, was that?
I sent all the study
Yeah,
information
but I was-
over. Did
I
you
was
get
just,
that?
I was super unimpressed with their presentation.
The presentation, I just got the study
I could have done-
information a couple weeks ago.
I didn't know if there was more, because I thought that presentation looked like, to me, it's like, well, your system costs X dollars, and now you don't get this, so you need to raise rates that. And like, I could have done that in 5 minutes. So I was just curious if they actually like dug in and gave like more like comprehensive information, other than just like, well, your expenses are here, so you gotta raise rates. Like, it didn't seem like there was any like creative, or like there were some areas where maybe we could trim, or like kind of to figure, I didn't.
let me go on to the next one, and because I think that's gonna address what you're asking, I believe so. And now we have just gone ahead and gone to water. And what I say this because I don't want it to sound like, well, you're just changing from bam, bam, bam. Every one of these, I believe, and I think council would believe this as well, and Danielle, chime in where I'm not speaking correctly, but every one of these has gone ahead and put us, I believe, on a much better level, where we know what our water is truly costing us. When we know what it costs us, then that goes ahead and it is we know what it costs us, it will go ahead and impact you guys. So I do think that we've gone in a really good direction of trying to do the best thing. With this water work that we're also working with, they will also be able to go ahead and look at our cost of our administrator, of the people that work here,
Capital group.
capital
Future.
improvements. They're gonna be looking at everything for us, so that when we
In real
look at this, we're gonna go ahead, Gary, and be able to say, okay. Are we messing up? Are we paying too much here? Are we not paying enough here? Each one of these steps, I guess what I wanna say is this, and we're trying to elevate our position for our residents. And if we're doing that for our residents, I look at that as doing it for all of our residents. It's not just a Blissfield thing, it's a Blissfield and a Raleigh thing. That's how I look at it. Maybe that's too simplistic, but that's simply
And they
how I
can
look at it.
project down the line and adjust. Because it's on real time and it's adjusted all the time.
Since we met 2 years ago, I do think, Gary, that some things have come out that good. Again, not as much perhaps what we would have liked, I will not disagree. I am gonna say that we did go ahead, and when we did meet, I understood then about the 12-inch pipe. I understood very basically that that was too big for what your needs are, and I understood that there was gonna be some of the water quality different. Understand it, that has not been resolved yet, as Mike has alluded to that, but we have gone ahead and we've gotten the mixer. Okay, and I believe that the mixer comes with part of that discussion with you guys, that's how I get it. Maybe I'm looking at that incorrectly, but I look at that. I look at there is, maybe not quite the team that you're looking for, but I do look to see things. Prior to Danielle being on board, there was no meeting with Rhonda that I'm aware of. And if there was, it was a long while ago. So what I'm gonna try,
Joe,
so what,
The administrative right
Remember
of
Joe?
that was down in
I
Sweden.
remember once being.
And at that point, you guys raised it 65% 1 year.
yeah, I think I'm mistaken.
Administrator head of her, he
That's-
came down and in the hall, and that's all over, it was raised 65%. Cost or something.
Say that again.
It was 65% raised.
Prior to Danielle.
Yeah, right, that one person, the fry, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But what I guess what I'm trying to say is this, is that with, I really believe with Danielle coming on board, it has opened the communication, maybe not quite how we would like it yet, but I do believe that the communication is, the hand was extended. Now, and I'm not pointing fingers, I'm saying the hand was extended, it also wasn't reciprocated.
Yeah, can I ask, when do you guys start the process of like looking at the new rate schedule and stuff like that? Like, when do you guys start discussing that?
So, yeah, usually around April is when we start looking at it, and it does take us through about the end of June before we are to a point that we feel comfortable enough knowing. And since I've been here, we have worked with Michigan Rural Water, so it's not just been us internally doing it. 2 years ago was the only internal, we did it internally with all of their, they have formulas built into sheets that they shared with us, and we did it. But it is a couple month process, but again, it's.
So, and I think that's where like apologies that we didn't respond probably like how we should, but by the time we're probably, my rationale is that we get it in July, we meet the second Tuesday, of every month, so we go in August,